everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl Anne with an E. This is the second part of the interview with the visa team, the two Natashas, or Tasha and Nata. So a quick recap from the first part, we got to know how they met. We also got to know a little bit about themselves individually, and then they told us about how they get visa to work even though they're on the opposite ends of the globe. In this section, they're going to talk us through what visa aims to do, and also they're going to highlight some of the projects and the partners who they're with. Plus, this is the part you've been waiting for, they are going to announce the big news, so do stay tuned.
The more practical side of what Visa is as a, initiative organization. So first I'm going to frame exactly why Visa needs to exist. So essentially, we have a huge need for more Africans to be in STEM fields. You know, we did some research to really evaluate the contributions of Africans to STEM and to global research. And although Africans make up about 16 to 17% of the global population, the global research output of the African continent is less than 1%, and that's really messed up. You know, that alone, I think, just highlights that there's this really big gap. And then further from that, I think anyone who is African, but also anyone who is aware of maybe the social, economic, and political landscape of Africa knows that there's still so many key issues that are affecting the continent, whether that's health related. I mean, right now we have COVID-19, which is, a global issue, but we still have very high rates of HIV and AIDS. I think malaria, dengue, but also very poor women reproductive healthcare services. And beyond the health, we still have quite high rates of poverty and poorly developed infrastructure. And so all these issues are things that need to be addressed by people who are in the sciences, who are in tech, who are in engineering. We need Africans to actually take up these occupations so that we're able to invest back into our continent and improve on these different aspects. And I only touched on a few, but I know there's many, many more. I mean, agriculture, you name it, right? So that's kind of framing what the problem is, essentially. And so what our initiative wants to do is our vision is to create a more positive narrative surrounding African contributions to STEM fields on a global scale. And we have a mission to empower Africans to not only pursue, but also to flourish in STEM fields. And we want to do this by giving them better visibility and also creating opportunities and support their career journeys. And just like a quick overview in some of the activities that Visa is already involved in, but we'll also be getting more into as time goes on. So, our brand is called Visibility STEM Africa. So we're all about representation. Representation matters way more than I think people realize. It's so important to see people who look like you in all spaces. You hear that so much in TV and stuff lately, but it counts as well in science. You need people who you need to see neuroscientists and surgeons and whatever who look like you in order to be inspired to go for that. So through our website, through social media, through events, we want to provide more visibility for Africans who are in STEM fields. We also want to make it easier for Africans to find opportunities that can help them in their career development. So think things like scholarships, funding, mentorship, conferences, these kinds of things. We want to create a database where people can much more easily find this information and it's actually applicable to them. Because so many times you're on the internet and you find the dopest, the greatest conference, and then it's just for people from the EU or something, and it's quite frustrating. And then beyond that, we will establish mentorship programs. And also we've already started getting into some partnerships, both with local partners, so partners in Africa, but also global partners, because we see the value in creating collaborations not only within the continent, but also on a global scale. And then finally, and I think really cool, is we want to create a fund for scholarships, particularly to help Africans from underprivileged backgrounds who maybe are really bright but can't afford, to go to university or can't afford to pay their tuition. So I think in a nutshell, those are some of the activities we're already working on or plan on working on in the coming months. And I don't know if there's anything I missed, but I think that's most of it. I don't know if
No,
you
I
can
think
answer.
no, I think you put it so beautifully, and you just, yeah, described it really well. I think the only other thing I would add is just what we always talk about, that this organization isn't about us. It's
No,
not a
exactly.
platform to promote us. And I mean, a part
Absolutely.
of a platform growing, of course, is having the people who are co-founding have large social media followers, so you can kind of retweet and share things and have a large following like yourself. But in reality, that's only a means to an end, and the end is to just give our, I guess, organization greater exposure and to be able to promote the visibility of Africans in STEM. So I think you put it beautifully, Tasha.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think,
What you're
yeah.
saying right now is fantastic, ladies, and um, all these projects that you want to do. I'm sure there's people who are in the STEM field who have never heard of, who haven't heard of Visa yet, and now they're like, "Oh my word, sign me up." How do they get involved?
Yeah, so maybe Nataša, do you want to take that question or shall I?
Yeah, you take that question.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I think in terms of getting involved, I think we actually have many avenues. So first of all, go to our website. I think that's the first step. So that's visibilitystemafrica.com. And if you are, for example, an African in STEM, we have a form you can fill where you can tell us about your story and your journey. Because one really cool thing that we do is we do what we call the spotlights, where we interview and profile Africans in STEM and from everywhere. So we have this goal that we want to have people from every country in Africa, all 54, I think there's 54, all 54 of them, that we have them interview people at all levels of, of career. So whether that's PhD, that's a professor, you don't even have to be in academia. There's people we've interviewed who are in agri-tech, for example, or, so anything that just relates to STEM, we want you to share your story because we believe that it's super important to share our story in our own voices. I think that's also the key that we want to push that. For a long time, I think Africans haven't really had these platforms to tell their own stories in their own voices and speak about their own struggles and, and also their successes. It's not always just a sad story. Sometimes there's a lot of like great things happening, but we just don't have the platforms. And these are the stories we want to share. So that's one aspect of it. We are also working on developing some kind of community, so probably via an app where people who are in science in different levels, we can actually interact with each other. So that will be really, really fun and cool. So we also have a different form. Also, you can get the link from the website, which is our Visa Connect form. So there you can just leave your details and then we can get in touch with you once we've kind of established everything more. We are on social media, so please follow us on everything. So you can
Yes,
find us
please.
on Twitter. I think it's VSTEM underscore, so VISTEM underscore Africa. We're on Instagram, same handle. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. Yeah. So just find us on. You can find the links on our website as well. So please follow us there. Sorry, because then you can also get all the updates. If you are an organization in STEM, we are very happy to talk with you and see how our missions can align. Because I think what's really important for us is we want to kind of bring people together. I think there's a lot of great organizations across Africa and also globally that do a lot of great work trying to empower Africans, but we work in a very fragmented way. So everyone is kind of doing their own thing. And I don't think that's really helpful. I think we need to start like bringing our efforts together. So what Visa wants to do is we want to be that person. We want to be that like hub where we connect different groups from different countries across Africa and beyond that, so we can kind of, strengthen our efforts essentially. So, yeah, get in touch with us. Honestly, we just want to be connected with as many people as possible and connect people with each other. That's like, really
Yes.
our passion. We see how much value that has in creating something like this, because this movement is bigger than Nata or I. It's bigger than any one person, than any one team. This is something that we really want to push the needle forward regarding Africans' contributions to STEM, and also supporting them if they do choose to take that route. So yeah, I think these are some of the ways that people can get involved. And if anyone has any ideas as well of things that maybe we haven't touched on, we're always happy to, Skype with people, talk with people, because that's how you birth amazing ideas. So please, we're very nice people, I believe. So just feel free to DM. You can slide in my DMs as well.
Slide in there.
But only for professional reasons, okay? Just to put that out there.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
but
I agree.
essentially, yeah, that's kind of some of the ways that people can get to know more and stay involved.
Yeah, and just to add one more thing, we have, the amazing Anne with an E, who has been writing blogs for us and has this amazing blog series about studying in South Africa, an essay. And really, if you're interested in writing, or you have some art piece that you'd like to discuss, or just your experiences, you can also write on our blog. That's something else you can do. And I really liked what Tasha said about just changing that narrative, giving Africans in STEM their own voice. Because you often see people saying, I want to help Africa. But no, we want to help African people because they are so diverse that you can't just class them as one type of person. And that's what's being done so often globally. And we really want to change that. We want to be like,
absolutely.
Well, no, there are things that are happening in Africa that are amazing. People working hard, being successful, and to kind of push that and allow that to grow, especially in younger generations, is so vital. So I really like what you said there, Tasha. It's so true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I just to add on that, I always, every time we have this kinds of conversation, I'm always stressing that point that, like, Africa is not a monolith. Anyone who's listening to this, again, Africa is not a monolith. It's 54 countries that even within one country is so incredibly diverse, right? That our experiences are so varied and so beautiful, and we have so many incredible stories, and we just want to share those stories. We want to show those diversities of experiences. But also the thing is, even through that diversity, there are some commonalities that we do share, because of the struggles that sometimes we face because we are Africans. For example, if you think about getting visas, like literally getting visas, which actually, side note, part of the reason why our initiative the acronym is Visa, was very intentional. It was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of reference to the fact that as Africans, we tend to need visas to go anywhere and to do anything, which is very frustrating. And being someone who's lived in a few countries, I constantly have to apply for visas, and it can be quite frustrating, So it's kind of like our platform wants to kind of be the visa that allows people to reach the heights that they should be reaching. You get what I mean? So just a random fun fact.
Wow.
Yeah. But
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I love how you both state that you really want to create a place of collaboration, right? And and although you state that this is for Africans, right? And with the stats that you mentioned earlier, Tasha, that Africans are not really that well represented globally. But what if, I want to pose a question now. What if I'm not African, but I love everything that you guys are doing and what you want to do? Can I collaborate? If not, if so, how?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, Anne. And, I'm going to sidetrack a little here and just actually say, I am not African considered by my passport. And this is something really important. And I want to put that out there because I grew up in Botswana. I lived there for 10 years. I moved around so often that it comes to a point where I don't know what identity I'm associated with. And I think Tasha and I were talking about this the other day, that, we are global citizens, and it can sometimes be very, very difficult. So if we're talking about technicality, if we go by, what passport you have, I am both Serbian and Australian. So I think that kind of answers your question in the sense that, I'm one of the co-founders, but by a lot of people's, I guess, criteria, I'm not considered African, but I grew up there, and it's a big part of my upbringing and who I am, the connections I've made, and constantly, throughout my life, I've been so thankful for that I wanted an opportunity to be able to give back to those communities that helped shape who I am. So you often find a lot of, let's say, people who grew up in Africa, or maybe their parents are Africans, but they grew up in the US. Just for example, but they have a strong connection to Africa. For instance, there's some researchers and their work is mainly based in Africa, and they make such amazing contributions to Africa. So in the sense that we don't want to leave people out and their ideas, and we want this to also be not only an initiative in Africa, but a global initiative, because we really believe that different perspectives are really valuable, and a lot of those opinions and perspectives are shaped by where you grew up. But there's a balance there, because we don't want to now start profiling everyone who's not an African descent, because we want to provide a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, we want to promote those people, and it's interesting because they're Africans in STEM that have remained in Africa throughout their career. And there's Africans in STEM who have traveled. And there's this inherent kind of, I guess, opinion that to be successful, you have to leave Africa. And that's what we want to understand a little more. Like, what is causing this cycle of, I think, Tasha, you once put it as all the brains leaving Africa.
Yeah,
a lot of the times.
The brain drain.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of answers the question of, like, if someone has a close passion with the continent and has a lot of connections there, if someone grew up there like I did, or has African parents, like, we really want to promote what you're doing and your work. And also, if you have no connection to Africa, but you have a really, really cool idea, or you have some expertise and want to volunteer your time, we are all for it. We want to hear, like, I don't know, any ideas you have. If you want to write on our blog and about an interesting topic, or if you're an expert in a certain field. But this is kind of like, I guess, where we draw the line that all of our spotlights are based on Africans in STEM, because at the end of the day, we want to promote their research. So we hope we can eventually kind of close that gap in terms of research output. So yeah, I'm sorry to put like an emotional spin, but I think constantly throughout my, I guess, upbringing and just life experiences, I always had that trouble when it comes to identity. But I think what matters is, like, what experiences you had and your passions in life at the end of the day. And I guess, Tasha, do you have anything to add when it comes to that?
Yeah, no, I think you stated it beautifully. And I think I actually think that the fact that you are the emotional and, I guess, personal life experience that you've had, that's actually one of the biggest assets to why, you're the perfect, like, co-founder, I guess, because, I from the moment we had the first discussion, I saw that you were passionate about it. And for me, that's, like, important. Like, you believe in the mission, you're very empathetic, I couldn't have, the whole, we can go into, all the details of, like, okay, what makes somebody African, et cetera, et cetera. But, at the end of the day, for us, what's more important is, do you believe in what we're trying to do? Cool. If you answer yes to that, then we can find a way to work together. That's it. Like, all these other details, at the end of the day, they're very divisive at the end. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really helpful in any way. So if you believe that African system needs, they need to be supported, and that's how you feel, then we can collaborate, in whatever ways that makes sense, depending on what you have to offer. And that's just where we stand regarding that. So we're not trying to make anyone feel excluded, because that's never got anyone anywhere, honestly. So yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so it's really good to know. So everybody, if you want to make a difference, if you want to contribute to Africans in STEM, please hit these ladies up. So now,
Thank
just
you.
as we are in the midst of the coronavirus, and basically everything is at a standstill, you know. But I know that, and I'm sure that you guys have some projects that you'd like to highlight, or things that you want to do this year, hopefully when the world gets back to normal, if I can say that. And also not only this year, but beyond. So I just want to give you guys this opportunity to just let us know on some of the things that you have planned.
Yeah, thanks so much, Anne. And just before I answer that, I just want to say thank you for providing us with this platform as well to, share our own experiences with founding Visibility STEM Africa. And I think I feel such a relief that I was able to talk about that stress I had related to my identity. So I honestly can't thank you enough for giving us this opportunity. I didn't realize how much that meant to me to kind of discuss these
to put that out there.
That out there. Thank you. So when it comes to
You're
exciting
welcome.
projects, thank you, Anne. So when it comes to exciting projects, like, we can go on and on and on about all these ideas we have, because as you can tell, like, the three of us, Tasha and I, we're very excited people and very motivated people, so we constantly have things happening. But I thought I'd just highlight a few of those that we plan to kind of, I guess, achieve by the end of this year. So at the moment, we're in the process of registering our initiative as a non-for-profit organization. And that is really huge. It's a lot of work. And the University of Luxembourg people and the incubation team are helping us with this process. And that's really important, because once, I guess, you're legit, it opens up a lot of opportunities, especially when it comes to funding. So that would actually be key. And that kind of, I guess, registration will hopefully lead to funding and will help us with the other projects that we are involved with. And will probably, likely, there's a high possibility that I will kind of, depending on how we go, open up so many other things that we didn't expect we could achieve. But for the moment, we have some interesting projects. So Ora, the headmaster at St. Anne's School in Harare, contacted us and just said that, currently the students don't really have a strong science curriculum. They don't even have a laboratory to work in to kind of complete experiments. And she really wanted our help, Visa's help, to kind of help with that. So we're planning to, I guess, help organize a lab for them. And that all depends on the funding we receive. But even if it's a basic lab that allows for experiments, because a lot of experiments in science don't require a lot of money to be able to complete. And we also want to kind of help build their library with a book drive, for instance, and really help with that science curriculum, because we have, a background in different fields. And anyone who's listening to this, if they want to contribute to kind of creating a science curriculum, hit us up. As well, we want to create a virtual conference that we're planning to kind of hold in September or end of this year. And especially with this climate, as you mentioned, Anne, this is ever more relevant, because more things are going to have to be virtual. And if we can kind of provide people a chance to connect virtually, that doesn't require them being reliant on having to pay for transport, which maybe they can't, or pay for a registration fee to go to a conference. This will be an amazing kind of initiative for those people, and also others in Africans in STEM. So we plan to do that as well. And I guess what Tasha mentioned earlier, perhaps a scholarship for underrepresented kind of groups in, and sorry, what did I want to say? Yeah, Tasha, do you want to talk more about perhaps the scholarship that we might end up doing, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So regarding the scholarship, we want to set up a fund to basically a fund that can assist kids from underprivileged backgrounds. So whether that's kids who are in high school who, they're not able to afford paying their school fees. I know, like, for example, in Zimbabwe right now, the economic situation is pretty bad, and a lot of kids aren't, a lot of parents aren't able to pay the school fees for their kids, and then they get kicked out of class, etc. So we want to try and, alleviate some of that pain by providing, some scholarships there, but also some bigger ones. So, for example, for tuition for, a undergrad or master program, at least helping with some of that, because there are a lot of brilliant, bright minds across the continent, but financial constraints make it really difficult for some people to be able to move forward. And the reality is there just aren't enough scholarships around for everyone. I was very fortunate myself to be able to get scholarships, etc., etc., and now I'm here. But I recognize that there's so many um of the youth just as bright or brighter than I ever was, who just can't get as far as their potential because of financial constraints. So we want to kind of put some effort into helping as many people that we possibly can, so that they can go for what they want to do. So yeah, that's the plan there.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tasha. I got tongue-tied for a second, so I appreciate it.
No worries.
This is why you guys are a team.
Exactly.
Yes.
We just finish each other's sentences.
This is why you guys are a team. So you mentioned that you are in the process of registering, and once you are legit, as you put it, you can then you then able to get funding, etc. And this follows up to my next question: that who are some of the partners that you work with now, and why have you chosen to work with those particular people?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I think we've been super, I don't know, like it's been quite overwhelming in the most positive way how many people have reached out to us actually to establish some kind of partnership. It's been very, very cool. So we have quite a few. I'm going to briefly mention them. I can't go into details, otherwise this this podcast will go on for like 2 more hours. So just mention some of the key ones we have. So I'll start maybe in Africa, the ones that we've established. So there's two. We were approached by two organizations in Nigeria. So one is Stemae Africa and one is Viziola Foundation. And these are both organizations that work to empower essentially the youth to get into STEM fields in different ways. So they have mentorship programs. They also do after-school STEM programs, things of that nature. They're both based in Nigeria. And yeah, so we're essentially... The idea there is for us to establish mentorship agreements with them, where we kind of, through our network, source mentors, appropriate mentors. Since we have quite a large network that we're growing, and then they have the connections with schools and the youth. And so that's a pretty cool partnership we're getting into with these organizations, and hopefully we'll establish more in different countries and in different regions on the continent. And then in Zimbabwe, we have two other partnerships. So already Nata mentioned Aura, who's the headmistress of St. Anne's School, so I won't get into that. But then we also have Dr. Brighton Samatanga, who is he's a scientist. He's currently based in Germany, and essentially what he's doing is he's establishing a really cool biotechnology research institute in Zimbabwe, which is amazing and quite an ambitious feat. And essentially, he wants this institute to really be on the same playing field and level as research institutes across the globe.
Wow.
So he's establishing partnerships with big companies and biotechs as well in Europe, and establishing partnerships with universities, institutions in Switzerland, and such. And yeah, I mean, this is ongoing, still very early days, but what he's trying to work on is very exciting, and we're super happy that he reached out to us to kind of see where we can fit in. And I think our main role, at least for now, is going to be with advising on the public health sector of the institute. So the institute essentially wants to be an institute with a conscience and give back to the community, So we would really be helping them with, doing awareness campaigns, educating, the general public about the work that they're doing in the institute, because it is so important that people understand what on earth scientists are doing. I think there's this very big gap in general, not even in Africa, but just in general, where there's this gap between, scientists, the research community, and non-scientists. And there are more efforts to kind of bridge that gap, but we really need to put more efforts into that, because it's important that people understand what we're doing, because we're not doing it for us, we're doing it for everyone, right? So that's Brighton. And then we have Andy Lopes, and he's based in the UK, and he's our contact from AuthorAid. And AuthorAid is a free global network that provides support, mentoring, resources, and training for researchers, particularly in low and middle income countries. And so they help people from the global south with publishing and communicating their research, which is really cool. So he's our contact person there. We're working with him in different ways. We have Valerie Young, who is based in the US, and she is an expert on imposter syndrome. And she essentially reached out to us in order to offer her services to our members, actually. And we'll talk more about that in the coming weeks to months, about exactly how that partnership is going to manifest itself. But we're really excited with having that contact as well, because she's pretty cool, and the work she does with talking about imposter syndrome, it's really, really cool. So we can't wait to share more. And then I think lastly I'll mention Judy and Andrew. So Judy's from the Conversation Africa, which is an independent source of news and views from the academic and research community. So it's a publication, and so we repost articles from them onto our website. And then we have a really cool contact from Forbes. So Andrew White, he interviewed me earlier this year for an article in Forbes, and he's essentially a contact that we're able to provide him with people who we think would be really interesting to also interview for Forbes, which gives them even more visibility. So we have quite a few partnerships that have come about, but I think these are some really interesting ones to highlight, and I'm sure many more are going to come about. And finally, I think the most critical partnership I want to mention right now is
drum roll,
exactly.
Drum roll. So Visibility STEM Africa is also going to be partnering with the Root of Science podcast, and we're forming a partnership in order, it's for us to mutually increase both our visibilities. So, talk about what we're doing on the podcast, and, also promote this podcast on our different platforms, because the work that Anna's doing is incredible, and we're super proud of her, and just super happy to see where this is going to go and how it's going to grow. So it's exciting times ahead. Yeah. No, that's really exciting. So for those that were wondering, this is exciting news. The Roots of the Science and Visa are going to be working together. So just to wrap it up, just to explain further, you heard in the conversations that Visa has got spotlight sessions where they highlight and they put Africans in STEM on sort of a spotlight. So the purpose will then be, I'll also be interviewing those people so that you guys can hear them, to be the voice, actually, to actually hear the passion, because I think that's the really exciting part about podcasts. You can actually hear the passion, like even with our two guests today, you can hear how they get along so well, and you can hear the passion and the drive and the motivation. So we thought it's only natural, I think, for us to collaborate. And I'm so excited. So please stay tuned. You'll be seeing a lot more Africans, particularly in STEM, on the Root of the Science podcast. So I'm very excited.
Yay! So are we.
I'm very excited. We're so excited. Thank you so much, Anne.
But lady, just to wrap it up real quick, we've heard how you guys are so passionate about the STEM field and giving Africans this platform, and just hearing, like you said, that this started in August, about 6 months ago, and you guys are here now. You have all these contacts. It's pretty exciting. So what advice can you give to people, or the one person who's got an idea, maybe not particularly like yours, or something, like you said, like Tasha, you said that it was just a thought in your mind and now it's here. What advice would you give them about starting an organization like this? And also, what sort of legacy do you want, visibility in STEM to leave behind?
Yeah, so I think for me, I'll say, I guess, for me, one piece of advice that I want to give is actually something that our mentor said to us, and it's become purpose-driven. So when you have an idea, or if you have an idea, if you are purpose-driven, you're always going to find people who will rally behind that idea. Money is great. Like, don't get me wrong. We all want to make money, and that's cool and all. We need it to survive. But ultimately, people back ideas that are purpose-driven. If you have a greater purpose and what you're trying to do actually is there to change lives and to help people, there's going to be people who are going to be there to support you and help you realize whatever it is that you're passionate about. So just find your purpose. What is the thing that makes you as excited as we are to do this, So yeah, I think that's all I can say about that. Like, just become purpose-driven, and the rest will just kind of starts to fall in place. And regarding the legacy we want to leave behind, man, we just want to put the needle forward and to just, I don't know, we want to inspire people, but also we want to build this community where we're like pulling each other along and building each other up, I think we're very much about community and working together. And I think if we can inspire that kind of attitude in people, that like people can think about others and how they can bring other people in the conversation and uplift other people, that's kind of what I think, at least one of the things that we want people to take out of what we're trying to do. We want everyone to be involved, and we don't believe in just success for us. Like, us succeeding is all of us succeeding. So yeah, I think that's I'll leave it there.
Yeah, same. That's perfect. Yeah.
Wow. No, thank you so much, ladies, for this chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was fantastic, and I think now people have the opportunity to hear the voices behind this initiative, and I think it gives even more reason for people to believe, and like Tasha said, that you'll have more people rally behind you guys, because what you guys are doing is amazing. And I'm sure there's going to be also little branches like myself who are going to stem off from what you guys are doing, and I cannot wait, and I'm sure everybody else can't wait, and you can't wait to see all the lives who I believe you'll change and have so much impact. So thank you for your time, ladies.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. And that's it for today. Thank you everybody for listening to the Root of the Science podcast with your girl and with an E. Until next time. Bye.